The Bundesliga goes wild. It's all changed at the top of the Premier League. Benzema is a worry for the Madrid Derby and a transfer roundup all coming up in the next few minutes as I'm your host, Matt Freiburg. You are the OneFootballers and this is the Daily News. So first up, looking back on some of the weekend's football, and the Bundesliga went absolutely crazy, and it wasn't just their Klassiker, which was a stunning game from start to finish. So at the top of the Bundesliga, Dortmund hosted Bayern Munich, and Bayern ran out 3-2 winners because of course they did. They always find a way to win the important games. It now leaves them 4 points clear, but the game was not without controversy, so much so that Jude Bellingham could find himself in a bit of hot water. After the game, he had quite a lot to say about the referees, especially for the penalty decision against Mats Hummels in which the ball touched his arm, so much so that according to Kicker in Germany, he could face a ban of up to 6 months and a hefty fine. It seems as though that may be a little bit of a stretch, and the chances are he'll have to pay quite a lot of money and won't be banned for so long. But it just goes to show how annoyed the midfielder really was, and you can kind of see where he was coming from. For those of you that didn't see it, the deciding factor in the game after a scintillating back and forth which saw the teams locked at 2-2 was Mats Hummels. Basically, a corner came in from Bayern Munich and he wasn't really looking at the ball. His arm was outstretched though, it hit his arm and a penalty was given. Robert Lewandowski converted because that's what Robert Lewandowski does. He is now the highest scoring goal scorer in the Bundesliga away from home in its entire history. And well, it gave Bayern Munich all 3 points, but that is not the craziest story of the weekend in the Bundesliga. Oh no, and it wasn't even the fact that Leverkusen won 7-1 against Freiburg, with Patrick Schick scoring 4 goals and scoring 3 of them within a ridiculously short amount of time. No, that 7-1 victory was not the mad story. The mad story came on Sunday at Gladbach. Gladbach at home to Freiburg, who are having a very, very good season. Good enough to be 5-0 up after 25 minutes, and 6-0 up at half-time? No way. There is no way that anybody could have predicted that, but it happened. In fact, it was the first time in Bundesliga history that a team has been 5-0 up away from home after just 25 minutes. It was so astonishing that, well, nothing really happened in the second half and it finished 6-0. For those of you who watch football regularly, you just knew this was going to happen. You knew after a ridiculous first half for scoring 6 goals that absolutely nothing was going to happen in the second half, and that was going to be the final score, and that is the way it stayed. And the last bit of news is that Jesse Marsch, after moving to RB Leipzig in the summer from Salzburg, is now no longer their manager. He was fired over the weekend after a poor start to the season was compounded by a 2-1 loss to Union Berlin on Friday night. Moving on though, and to some Premier League action, and it wasn't as mental as some of the action in the Bundesliga, but there was a change at the top of the league, and that is because Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea lost 3-2 at West Ham, meaning that both Liverpool and Manchester City could pounce, and it leaves Chelsea in third. Wasn't the greatest afternoon for Thomas Tuchel, nor was it the greatest afternoon for Edouard Mendy. He has been brilliant. Chelsea's defence has been brilliant. Not only have they been scoring the goals, and Thiago Silva got himself on the score sheet as well, but they've not been conceding many at all. In fact, this was the first time all season that Chelsea have conceded 2 goals in 1 match. And 2 of them were the fault of Edouard Mendy. For the first one, he took a heavy touch, gave away a foul, and West Ham equalised. And for the winner, I'm not even sure whether Masuaku meant it or not. It was like a cross-come shot that was unerringly accurate, which makes me think that he meant it. Anyway, Edouard Mendy was caught out and the ball ended up in the back of the net, and West Ham took a 3-2 victory and kept all 3 points at the London Stadium. But this meant, like I mentioned, that Liverpool, with a last-gasp winner from Origi, managed to overtake them, and so did Manchester City, who were comfortable winners against Watford. On top of this though, there was a little bit of controversy in the Premier League this weekend, because of course there was, and of course it surrounded VAR, but this time I'm going to stick my neck out and say actually it was correct, because I've done a little bit of reading of the rules. So this is talking about the Aston Villa match. Of course, a 2-1 victory for Steven Gerrard's men, making it 3 wins out of 4 over Leicester City. Leicester took the lead, but Aston Villa came back to win it. Now, on the stroke of half-time, Ramsey found himself scoring after kicking the ball out of Kasper Schmeichel's hands, or so he thought. Maybe not thought. Basically, Kasper Schmeichel had one hand on top of the ball, and then the ball was touching the floor. This counts as the goalkeeper being in possession of the ball, meaning you cannot kick it out of his hands. When I first saw it, I thought it was 2 hands on the ball for a goalkeeper to be in possession, but it turns out the rulebook says otherwise, and the correct rule was applied. Whether or not you agree with this rule is neither here nor there, because the VAR and the referee applied it correctly. There was 1 hand on the ball, and the ball was in between that and another surface, like his body or like the ground as well. So technically technically it was the right decision. Anyway, Aston Villa, according to Steven Gerrard, were told a few home truths at half-time, and they came out, managed to grab the second goal and take home all 3 points. Next up then, and a little bit of a worry for Real Madrid heading into a rather important week. They face Inter Milan in the Champions League, and on top of this, they end the next 7 days with a Madrid Derby against Atletico Madrid, and they may have to do it without Karim Benzema. He has a hamstring injury, and it looks like he definitely will miss the Inter game, and he's a doubt for that massive match against their city rivals at the end of the week. Over the weekend, though, there was still some good news for Real Madrid, and I'll say it yet again because we're here on a Monday morning. Now's your chance to get on the Vinicius Jr. bandwagon. I go on about him every single week because every single week he does something ridiculous, and this week again, he's finding the back of the net. He's consistent, he's brilliant, and the hype is real. I mean, elsewhere, it was actually a very good weekend for Real Madrid despite the injury to Karim Benzema, because not only did they win, but also Barcelona and Atletico Madrid both suffered home losses. Yes, this does put Betis a little bit closer to Real Madrid in third, and Sevilla's win means they're 8 points behind, but in terms of their normal rivals for La Liga, looking like Barcelona and Atletico Madrid in the last few years, Real Madrid have a very comfortable lead. They're currently 8 points ahead of Sevilla. Oh, and on top of all of this, just when you think football couldn't get a little bit more crazy, both Hakan Çalhanoğlu and Juan Cuadrado both scored directly from a corner this weekend in Serie A, as both helped their teams to victories. Next up then, let's go to a quick roundup of the rest of the day's news and transfer news that you might have missed from over the weekend. And according to reports in Argentina, Thiago Almada is close to sealing a $16 million switch to Atlanta United in the MLS. If you don't know who that is, check out FIFA Football Manager. He's like the wonder kid that everybody wants. Elsewhere, and Liverpool have admitted that they've got some interest in bringing Napoli midfielder Fabian Ruiz. Director of football at Everton, Marcel Brands, has left his role, and Manchester United managerial target Erik ten Hag has said that he is ready for the challenge of managing a foreign club, and it looks as though he could take over next season after Ralf Rangnick's interim deal is done. Actually, talking of Manchester United and Ralf Rangnick, things got off to a good start this weekend as they managed to win 1-0 against Crystal Palace. Next up then, a quick roundup of your Friday feels, where Sumit Swain guessed that Spurs would win 3-0 against Norwich, Bryce Clay guessed that West Ham will beat Chelsea, and our very own Angelina, whose videos you can watch here after she left over the weekend, correctly guessed that both Haaland and Lewandowski would find the back of the net in the Dortmund Bayern Munich game. Finally, we've come to Emoji Mondays. This is where we on OneFootball throw some emojis down over some of the weekend's hottest action. First up, the best player. I've got 2 players. First off, Patrick Schick. He managed to score 4 goals. Doing that at any level is pretty impressive, and it means that Leverkusen stay third in the Bundesliga. And on top of this, Bernardo Silva for Manchester City. My God, what a game he had. He scored 2 goals and helped them to a 3-1 victory over Watford. It was just sensational all over the park. Next up, and the crazy moment, we talked about it, goes to Freiburg being 6-0 up at half-time at Gladbach. Doesn't get much crazier than that. And last but not least, the best result of the weekend. There was quite a few. Of course, you could have the 6-0 in there, we just mentioned it. You could have the 7-1 as well. A 3-2 victory is massive for Bayern Munich, and so are the other victories towards the top of the table in the Premier League. But for me, it goes to Verona, who are 3-0 down against Venezia, only to turn it around and win 4-3. A stunning comeback. That's all from me then. Make sure you check out loads more OneFootball content. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.